Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Many experience feelings of isolation, loneliness, and lack of connection with both themselves and others. What's the path to understanding our unified place in the universe? Perhaps nature holds the key. Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the Voice of Canada Broadcast Network, www.vocbn.ca. With us this hour to explore the unifying power of nature is Pam Montgomery. Pam is an herbalist, author, international teacher, earth elder, and new paradigm thinker who has been investigating plants and their intelligent spiritual nature for more than 3 decades. She's the author of 3 books, her latest, Co-Creating with Nature, Healing the Wound of Separation. She teaches internationally on plant initiations and spiritual ecology and co-creative partnership with nature. Pam is the founder of the Organization Nature Evolutionaries and was a founding board member of United Plant Savers. Her website, wakeuptonature.com. Pam, thank you so much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Oh, what a pleasure it is, Gwilda. Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure. This is a wonderful topic right now, given everything going on in the world and the stress that the planet and everybody on her is on. So how did you first become aware of the consciousness of nature?
Oh my goodness. Well, a long time ago, what happened was I've always been a nature person, but I love to garden. So what started to happen in my garden were things I couldn't explain, experiences with the plants, experiences with aspects of the garden started to, in my peripheral vision, like right about where you can stretch your eyeballs, but not all the way. I started to see darting movements and things. And so things started to happen. And I was like, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. And I really need to discover what that is. So it sent me on this trajectory of learning everything I could about the larger aspect of nature that is sentient, that has consciousness, and this aliveness of nature. And of course, plants make up a huge part of nature on our planet, plants and trees. And and I'm an herbalist, so I kind of went down that avenue, and I just have been kind of blown away how the plants especially step forward as they're needed. So yes, consciousness, which basically means being aware of yourself, self-awareness. And this amazing nature is totally self-aware. It makes adjustments that are needed, like adjusting the environment, adjusting the atmosphere. That has been happening, adjusting the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere so that we continue to have a very life-giving atmosphere. So there's just so much that, and I discovered this very early on when these things started to happen in my garden that I could not explain.
Well,
And it's been an amazing journey.
Well, as you described that, the Native Americans and the Celts have spirits of nature. The Celts have the fairy folk and the little people, and the Native Americans have the nature spirits. Does it relate to that at all?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. Spirit, if we want to look at that word, I would define spirit as the vital principle held to give life, which translates then to this consciousness that we're talking about. And so, and because of the nature of spirits, it's holographic in nature, meaning that you've got the big picture, and then you take a piece of that out of the big picture, and the whole is contained within it. So that's how you can have individual aspects which might be called nature spirits, or the spirit of a plant, or the spirit of a mountain or a landscape, how there's this individual aspect, spirit aspect of it that really is part of the whole and contains the whole within it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, that their description, their way of describing the spirits in their landscape or that they worked with, it's the same. Yes.
I did wonder. So your bio says you're an earth elder. What's that?
I am an earth elder. I'm getting up there in years. Yes. So I've been, it all started when I was a kid, and I was lucky to have a grandmother, one of those lucky persons to have a grandmother my grandparents lived very close to the earth. They were in the eastern hills of Kentucky in the Appalachian Mountains, and they were like the salt of the earth. And she was a plant person, and she would talk to her plants. And I would be like, Granny, who are you talking to? And she said, well, in her very Kentucky accent, well, plants are just like people. They need friends too. But the point here is that I got it at that very early age that that's how you were to be with your plants. When I got older and, actually went into the herbal field and all that, and then I realized not everybody does that. And actually some people like roll their eyes to the backside of their head when you start talking about that you're going to talk to plants. So the point being here is that I've been engaged in this since I was a kid, even though in my young years, I wouldn't say that I learned a lot from her on a cognitive level, but it was through osmosis. So I've been doing this my entire life, not just my adult life, but and my adult years are getting on now. I've been doing this as a profession for 40 plus years.
Thus the elder piece. So
Yeah.
you mentioned plants have an intelligent spiritual nature. What do you mean by that?
Oh my goodness. Well, they're intelligent spiritual. So plants and people are very symbiotically related. We have been throughout our time on this planet, we've been evolving together. And the piece that's really exciting right now. So plants have always preceded their animal counterparts in evolution. It's happened since day one. So like angiosperms, flowering plants evolved first before mammals. So that's their animal counterpart. And so what's happening? So this whole spiritual aspect of our symbiosis, of how we're related on that spiritual level, is that because the plants have always preceded us in our evolution, it's kind of like, okay, so what's our evolution right now? Where do we need to take it to the next place? Where do we need to evolve to? Where are we evolving to? What's the next iteration of our next raising of consciousness? What is that? I personally would say that it has to do with, stopping destroying the planet and each other in the process. And so look at, you and I were talking earlier about growing up in the 60s, and look at what happened in the 60s. It was a huge explosion during that time period of working with plants in another way than just ingesting them for medicinal purposes or something like that. But it was like opening doors of perception. It was like, there's another whole reality here that we can be privy to because of plants and their psychotropic properties. So there was that. Then after that, there was flower essences, which Dr. Bach used to be the only one who did anything with flower essences. And now there's hundreds of flower essence companies out there, and this is a preparation. There's no chemical constituents in it at all. It is strictly the vibratory resonance of the plant. And then I've done a lot of work with plant spirit healing, where you don't even have to ingest the plant, and it continues to happen. We're doing plant initiations now, where the plant is in its own evolution is stepping forward to serve as the elder, to initiate us into what it means to be truly human, living sanely within the collective. So the point that I'm making here in the plant's spiritual consciousness and awareness, and in nature's, we're going to extend that to nature because plants are a big part of nature, is that they're just preceding us. So that means our next evolution is of a spiritual nature. And if we pay attention to what the plants are doing and how they can guide us and inform us in this spiritual evolution, I mean, we are on the cusp of a new iteration here, a new level of evolvement, and we're evolving very, very quickly in that way, because a lot of the evolution now is through epigenetics. That's another whole topic. But so I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's exciting. The whole spiritual aspect of the plants and nature is so exciting right now, because we're next.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the intelligence. We usually associate intelligence with the brain and the ability to think. And last time I looked, they don't have a head, much less a brain. So,
Well,
how does that fit in there?
well, you know, I mean, even Darwin talked about the intelligent root tips of plants. So plants have a different way of communicating, have a different way of being than we do. They're not humans. Obviously they're a different species. And yet they their intelligence is more of a whole beingness, a whole the whole be- some of the work that's out there right now, that's about the trees and the mycelium, and how the tree roots and everything are connected to the mycelium that's in the soil, and how one tree can be the mother tree, and it can help heal a tree that's way far away, and it's all travels along the mycelium. Plants know that they know when there's danger in the area, and they send out signals to their neighbors. Plants have large protein molecules, larger than humans do. Protein molecules are what store the data. Plants take in all this data, and they were able to store it. And 1.8 billion years ago, plants began to make decisions about inheriting traits, about reproduction, about how they were going to move forward. So they moved into this place of self-awareness at that time. They became intelligent beings that realized that in order to thrive, they needed to make some decisions about how that was going to happen.
Are
There's a
there are
whole
there are there
Go
any
ahead.
studies that
Yes, I
indicate
was just
this?
going to tell you, there's a whole book called Cell and Psyche by Edmund Sinow, who has hypothesized that what we would call higher mind is the result of plants making this decision 1.8 billion years ago.
Well,
And that was the beginning.
it's time for us to take a station break. Pam and I will return very shortly, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Have you become separated from the natural world? With us this hour discussing the impact of becoming separate from nature is Pam Montgomery, the author of Co-Creating with Nature, Healing the Wound of Separation. Her website, wakeuptonature.com. Pam, we were just talking about plants being sentient, and you said there were some studies that indicated that they're kind of leading this whole thing. Do you have any other studies that you can cite?
Oh my gosh, there's well, a lot of people have been doing work about it. Jeremy Narby has been doing work with nature intelligence. He has a whole book written about nature intelligence. Um, there's there's a whole group of scientists, and they have it's in recent times, but it's been a few years now, and they're investigating what they're calling plant neurobiology. So this is a huge segment, and they're the ones that are coming out strongly. And these are scientists. You and I, and we kind of think about some scientific studies and all that, but we're also looking at like this other huge dimensional reality that plants are a part of and that nature is a part of. But the scientists are coming up with, it's kind of like the science is catching up to kind of what the old shamans have known from for a very long time, is that these plants are so intelligent and amazing. So anyway, plant neurobiology is a whole new field of science that is talking exactly about this and about plant intelligence. So many books are being, Michael Pollan has writing books about it now. So there's a lot of information out there, but I would check, if you really want the science, then go to plant neurobiology and look up all the work that they're doing. They're doing a lot of great work.
Great. So, when and how did modern people become separated from nature?
Oh goodness, the whole separation. What a story that one is. Well, it really started when we stopped hunting and gathering and just kind of taking what was provided for us, and started to stay in one place and
But
become
but
agriculturalists.
yeah, let me interrupt. But that's when we started being very active about cultivating plants, right?
Well, it was a long time ago, but yeah, yeah, we started cultivating plants, and what that means is then you start to, it's the beginning of the manipulation of nature. You're going to put a seed in the ground now to have it grow to be your food, instead of go out and gather what's already there for your food. So it's the beginning of that. And now we're talking, it used to be like, oh, about 6,000 years ago, and now there's been more discoveries in different temples of, and it looks like it was more like about 12,000 years ago when this began. So then what happens is, once you start to grow food, then you start to store food, and then you have extra, and then some people have more extra than others do, and then it starts to set up this whole thing of who has what and who controls what, and then from there it moves into land ownership and sequestration of resources of what's there on that land, and who it gets to belong to. And some don't have any, so it sets up the us and them thing. And then from there, the next extension of that is empire building, and where actually large groups of people come in and take over land that is full of resources and full of very rich and bounteous and all of that, which then that means that then some people are subjugated, and it's just this snowball that begins to happen. Colonization happens where there's the control of the land, which then means control of its resources, which then means control of the people. So I think that's where it began. And so once your sovereignty is taken away, what happens is massive amnesia sets in. You start to forget. You forget who you are. You forget the stories of the land. You forget that you actually know the language of plants. You forget what wild water tastes like. You forget how to grow your own food. You forget how to keep the soil nourished. So there's so much forgetfulness that's happening. That's where we're at right now. We have fallen into this deep amnesia where we've forgotten actually that we are a part of nature. We're an animal too. We are a part of nature, and we have forgotten that. So there's this huge separation. This forgetfulness creates this huge separation. And we don't know what it means anymore to be a part of nature in a genuine way. Well,
So,
go to a park and take a hike. Okay. But
so what impact has our separation from nature had on us?
oh, well, some would say it's the original wound, and that once we are separate from the land and from nature, then we start to separate from ourselves, because again, we're a part of nature. So if we're separating from, the big nature, that means we're separating from ourselves too. And and when we separate from ourselves, it's like we start to live in the shadowy places within ourselves instead of within our light, because we are beings of light actually. So this separation, and I firmly believe that that's what's created this state we find ourselves in, with the crisis of, climate crisis, and existential crisis. I mean, we are in crisis right now on so many levels, and it stems from separation from nature, which extends to separation from ourselves and each other. Then, of course, we don't know how to live within our diversity in a sane way. We don't have a clue how to do that.
But if we move backwards and look at it, it's been an evolutionary process for people to become more productive, more a lot of things, and yet now there's so many of us. Do you feel that there's a way to return? You say just walking in a park doesn't do it. So what? So, I mean, it's not like we can wildcraft everything that we need at this point.
Right, right. Well, okay. So as far as healing the separation, I mean, we have this tendency to have this kind of warring mentality. There's a war on this and there's a war on that. At least in this country, there's always seems to be some kind of war going on. If it's not like a literal war, then it's a war on something. So, and if you look at our languaging, there's so much violence and the enemy within our language. So this is one of the things I personally have been working on, is when I catch myself saying something like, oh, a real classic expression is stabbed in the back. Okay, really? No, not really. So anyway, there's just this language of separation and language of war. So I feel like we really need to eliminate this warring mentality. And of course, it starts internally. So that monologue that we all have going all the time of not this, not that, not enough, not smart enough, not good enough, not talented enough, not. We need to shift that into what are the gifts that we carry? What are the gifts that we bring into? Because we all have a gift that we come in with, including the plants, including the other animals, including the water, including the land. All of it carries gifts that we bring in. And when we live according to that true essential nature, sharing our gifts with the rest of life, that's when life thrives. And so I feel like when we eliminate the warring against ourselves and nature, when we employ what's called interbeing. This is a term that was coined by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh. He coined the word interbeing, which means connected. We're all connected. We are all connected. We're connected to nature. We're connected to all of it. There's interconnection and interdependence. So this word interbeing that's being used quite a bit now, that this is where we're moving towards. This is the evolution we're moving into, is a state of interbeing. And the other caveat with interbeing is that there's this realization that we have the ability to instantaneously see the effects of our actions across the globe. So there's this other whole layer of, and this intermingling, this intermerging, this being able to really understand that on a deep level. So interbeing is a really important piece to bring into here to help heal this wound of separation. Engaging in, yes.
Let's drop back down.
Okay, drop it down a
Okay,
notch.
let's drop it down a notch. So still, we've become separated from nature. That seems to be the issue here.
Yeah.
How do we heal that? You said walking in the park doesn't do it. And are you talking about just languaging is going to make a
Well,
difference?
it's
Or
one aspect. Up close, and I mean those wow moments. The wow, I call them wow. Wonder opens wide. It's those moments where we have those close encounters with nature where you're just like, takes your breath away. It could be a sunrise. It could be a beautiful flower that just has opened and it's so exquisite. You're just like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And the smells coming and just so
so
what happens?
are you talking about gratitude and appreciation as a way of connection?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's always gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most positive impulses you can give to the heart. It helps the heart go into coherence is gratitude. So absolutely. But these wow moments, what they do, here's what's the cool part about this, is it releases oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone that it's called the bonding hormone. It's how we're hardwired to make the connection, to connect with the rest of life, to connect internally with everything going on internally, to connect with each other, to connect with nature. It's how we bond. And in these wow, aha moments, in these like, yeah, kind of moments, close encounters, joyful encounters with nature, oxytocin gets relieved. We connect, we feel the connection on that deep level, and it initiates what's called the restorative response. Very different than the stress response. So, this connection with nature in this like wow kind of way helps us get in touch with ourselves, get in touch with each other, get in touch with nature, and restores us back to the balance place within ourselves, back to the balance point. This is a huge way. Now, I say taking a walk in the park is not going to do it. That's probably not fair, because you can have wow moments taking your walk, or taking a walk in the forest, and where all the terpenes are getting released from the evergreens, and you're just breathing that in, and that brings a lot of healing to you as well. But I think remembering that we are actually a part of nature and not separate. I think working in co-creative partnership, which we have mentioned already, working in co-creative partnership, there's a few tenets with that. There's communication, there's self-love, there's time, operating in internal time and instead of external time. Always, we're so much ruled by the clock, operating in that internal time, which is our own rhythm, which puts us, when we go into internal time, we usually sync up with the timing of nature, like the timing of the earth, the timing of the seasons, the timing even in a daily movement. So being able to spend some internal time, just stepping outside your door in the morning and having a little walkabout, not having an agenda. Oh, I have to go weed this garden bed. Oh, I have to go do this. And oh, don't forget to harvest that. Instead of me having my list, just step out the door and take a little walkabout and go where I'm attracted. Who's attracting me?
So
And go
it's
and be with
time.
that being.
It's time for us to walk about right out of
Have
this
a
segment.
walkabout, okay?
It's time for another station break. Pam and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. If you talk to plants, will they answer? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing communicating with nature is Pam Montgomery. Her website, wakeuptonature.com. Pam, we've spoken numerous times about communicating with nature, communicating with plants. But what does that look like? I mean, do they answer us? How do we hear them? There must be something lost here, because it's not a common thing anymore.
Right, correct. We've forgotten. And it's just a remembering process. To be honest, we do know how to communicate with nature and with plants. We've just forgotten. So it's a remembering process. But just to say, as you are aware, plants aren't using these sounds coming out of a mouth like you and I are. That's not what plants are doing. Plants primarily are communicating, well, this is what's in the science, is that the foundational way of communicating within the biological world is through light and sound, which carries a vibratory resonance. So it's this vibratory resonance. It's everything vibrates. Everything, even physical form. I mean, we're sitting here, with a table in front of us. Perhaps there are molecules that make up this table, and they're all moving. Everything has a vibration. So these plants, all of nature, have a vibratory resonance, and this is primarily how they are communicating. Now, we can experience that vibratory resonance in our bodies. We receive those touches from nature, and they land somewhere in our bodies, and we experience it as a sensation, not an emotion, but a sensation. So a sensation is like, tingling in your hands. That's a sensation. So we experience the vibratory resonance. Let's use plants as an example, somewhere in our body as a felt sensation. It's called a felt sensation. And then what we do, we feel that sensation, and then we put a handle on it. So we describe it in a few words, not paragraphs, because that you won't remember that. You want to be able to remember how you're describing it. Sometimes it might even be a posture or another way, but primarily we describe it. So for example, softness. So one of my felt sensations with rose is softness. I have the sensation of softness. Now you say, well, that's kind of way out here. What kind of soft? Soft as silk, soft as velvet, creamy soft like butter. So you take it from out here and you bring it right in and you focus it. You bring it to a focal point. What kind of soft? And then you described that softness. Now, what this does is that the next time you're sitting with rose, or it can even be without sitting with rose, because plants operate outside of time and space also. So all you have to do is say, soft as silk. And you come right back into that resonance and you're right there with rose. And the communication can start to happen. A two-way street, because you're in the vibration of softness, which is the sensation that you felt from rose. This is all an example. You're going to have your own sensation with rose. It might not be the same as mine, because my vibration and your vibration are different. And what we're doing here is we are starting to merge our two vibrations. And that's how communication begins, is on this vibratory resonance.
So, scent is a vibratory expression.
Absolutely.
And of course, plants have lots of different scents, and they have different
do.
scents at different times, as far as I've understood. So, what role does that play?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a whole thing about the olfactory scenting with plants. As I mentioned earlier, there's the whole thing about forest bathing now. That's a big thing. It started in Japan and now it's happening quite a bit here in the States. And so you can take a walk through the forest and there's all these scents that come from the forest. And some of the chemicals that are being released they're called terpenes, and you breathe that in and a whole cascade of events begins to happen in your physical body. And I would also say in other aspects of your being as well. There's certain plants that have a lot of volatile oils in them, and usually plants with a high volatile oil content means that they are strong scented, and they're highly medicinal. Volatile oil plants are highly medicinal on many different levels. So lavender is a good example. I love lavender. And the scent of lavender, just the scent of lavender, can have a cascade of events in your entire nervous system. It also, here's the other thing about these plants, which lavender brought this. We this past year, we did a lavender plant initiation in Provence. So we were in the lavender fields when they were all blooming. Now, if you've never been with lavender when it's in bloom in southern France, you should put it on your bucket list, because it's unbelievable. The air is lavender. And what happened with lavender was about deep inner peace. And I'm like, what's that mean? Oh, those are nice words. Inner peace. Okay, how would I do that? So what lavender does, partly with its scent, is okay, everybody got to hang in here with me right now, because you might be like, wait a minute, what? What lavender's doing is it's redirecting the energy away from trauma, from all those old traumas, all that old stuff that you've been spending, you've been in counseling with your therapist for 20 years to deal with. What's happening with lavender is it's redirecting that energy away from old trauma toward your next iteration, your next evolution of being all you possibly can be. So it has to do with not spending so much time on all that old stuff. Lavender steps in and says, no, we're not whisking it away. We're just not going to spend so much energy on it. And we're going to redirect that energy, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy exists. It's the sentience aspect of the plants, or this plant spirit that helps direct the energy. That's how it works. So lavender comes along and redirects that old energy that spent a lot on that old trauma into being all you possibly can be, into being living to your full potential.
So how does it do that exactly?
Well, that's a very good question. That's inner peace. That's what was the answer to inner peace. My experience, and I can only share my own experience with you, is that when I'm that in the aroma of lavender, I'm not thinking about or dwelling on any of that old stuff. And it directs my energy towards like my higher self, my more potential beingness. All I can do is give you my experience of it, is that somehow lavender is one of those plants that has that amazing scent. And when you're in the scent of it, you're wanting to be your best self. I don't know how else to describe it, Gwilda. That's my
Well,
experience of it. How does it do it? It does it through the olfactory scent that it carries.
so this brings to mind, when we left the hunter-gatherer stage and we started living in our high-rise apartments with filtered air and our feet are on the concrete instead of on the earth. The whole scent is missing. The whole vibratory interaction is missing. And what impact has that had on our health? And is that why people now are using essential oils and this sort of thing to try to find a rebalance?
Absolutely. Well, that's part of it. So, okay, back in the part of spiritual evolution. So this is part of it. So part of it is that the plants and it's people, people are the ones that are like stepping up to wanting to incorporate essential oils into their lives because of just exactly what we've been talking about. But that's part of the spiritual evolution, is that plants are stepping up and helping people to become aware of the fact that they have this gift to share with them. So please, here's this gift we carry. Please, we want to share this with you. And people are starting to be like, oh, okay. And this is available to me now. And it's available actually on a fairly mass level now. It's not, I don't have to go out and find the plant and sit with the plant and smell it. I don't have to actually go to the lavender fields of Provence, even though that's pretty special, because I can have that lavender essential oil through, that's being, made. It's being through a distillation process. We can extract that oil from the plant. And that is like, hallelujah, that we can do that. So yes, it's part of the healing. It's part of the evolution that we talked about way in the beginning. And so, yes, people are being separated from those aspects of a nature that bring us back into alignment, bring us back into our health and well-being. So what's happening? People are getting sick left and right, and we're not healthy physically, we're not healthy mentally, we're not healthy emotionally, and our spiritual flame, our spiritual fire is burning very low. We just have some embers here. So this is what the plants are doing. Yes, they are helping us, bringing us back.
The other thing I'm curious about is plants are different every season, right? They grow different. They have different constituent parts every season. Is there some way that helps us align with the seasons?
Oh,
Find our balance
absolutely.
within them?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you say they're different each season. And so this is another thing that happens with plants that is so amazing. The example I'll give you is that in that crucial year of 2020, in my garden, this plant came that has never grown here. Now, I live in Vermont. I live in cold country. This plant likes it warmer. It'll grow in the Hudson Valley. It'll grow south. But this plant is called poke root, and it is a plant. Some would say, "Oh, that you got to be careful with your dosage of that." Yes, it's a very potent plant, But the root of this plant is one of the best plants there is for your immune system. And it showed up in my garden in that year that your immune systems were like, oh, our immune systems are getting real compromised here. We really need to boost our immune system here to keep ourselves healthy. And that plant showed up that year. Now you have to ask yourself, why is that? They are so symbiotically related to us that they know that our immune systems need help right now. So they show up. And go ahead.
Now, I was just wondering, is that the way the original herbologist figured out what does what?
I think so. Back in the day when I used to do herbal consultations for people, and instead of having them come to me, I would go to them. And I would spend like the first 5-10 minutes walking through their yard to see what grows there. 9 times out of 10, I'd walk in there and they'd tell me their story, and I'd be, the plants they needed were right there growing.
Interesting. Well, it's
Now,
that.
this is not Pam's new agey idea. This is for real.
Well, Pam,
Plants show up when you need them.
it's time for us to take a commercial break. Stay tuned as Pam and I continue to explore the mysteries of the natural world. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Can one co-create with nature? If so, what do you create? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Pam Montgomery. Her website, wakeuptonature.com. So, Pam, you speak about co-creating with nature. What do we create?
A beautiful life. Okay. So I'll keep it personal because that's all I can do. I can only give you what my experiences are. Is that when in my gardens, let's say, instead of me making all the decisions about what needs to happen in this garden, if I cooperate with the soil, with the water, there's a stream that runs right past one of my main gardens, with the water, with how the sunlight is coming into this garden, with the plants that are going to be put there, because it is a garden. So it's there's a couple wild things that I let come in, but I am going to place plants there. If I check in with the plants, check in with the water, check in with the soil first, and we kind of, it's like, oh, this is what you're going to need here, this is what you're going to need there, then everything is so much easier and successful.
So, Pam, help me out here. How do you check in? Knock on their door? How do you check in?
Well, okay. So that means you need to learn how to communicate with nature, which we were talking about earlier. And part of that communication is through the vibratory resonance. Now, there's a whole process that happens from that vibratory resonance. Once you've received it in your body as a felt sensation, then you start to, there's an emotional response that comes to the sensation. There's this whole aspect. You will hear words in your head because that's what's familiar. That's what's familiar to us as words. So we will perhaps hear words in our head. And so what you need to realize is the words are a translation of the vibratory resonance. It's easier for us to understand, basically. And so there'll be, you've got your vision, your radar screen where your vision, and you've got visions that march across your radar screen. You'll have memories from times before, perhaps, or memories from times. So there's a sundry of ways in which you'll step into the daydream. The daydream is an extremely powerful place because you've got one foot in this world and one foot in another dimensional reality. The daydream is very potent and very powerful. And what you're doing, especially when you're working with plants, is you're in the daydream of the plant. You happen to be in the daydream of the plant. And so when you step into that, a whole nother door opens. And I know that you might sit there and say to me, oh, Pam, come on. Is that really possible? Yes. It is. And that's what I'm saying, is that once we remember and we wake up to the fact that we are a part of nature and we know how to do all this that I'm describing right now, it sounds a little wah wah woo woo maybe, but we actually do know how to do this. And
So,
once you begin to do it, it becomes like second nature, or you might say first nature.
so let's back it up a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go out and it's spring and I've got a raised bed garden. And I'm standing there looking at it and I'm going, okay, what should I plant this year? Or what's going to do well this year? Or what do we need this year? That's just an internal conversation. How do I go from there to what you're talking about?
Okay. Well, you pay attention. So when I am asking something like that, of like, because I'm not sure, I need guidance. Then if there's plants, particular plants. So let's use your example. So plants that you want to put in your garden. What should I put in my garden this year? What wants to go in this bed this year? And then you begin to pay attention. My experience is that the plant will cross your path at least 3 times. 3 times seems to be the magic number, and it happens quickly. It could be in a conversation with somebody. It could be, a book falls off the shelf and it opens the page and there it is. Or, I mean, it's astounding how the plant shows up and informs you. My experience has been, when it crosses your path the third time, you better pay attention, because that's the answer.
So there, you're working with communication through synchronicities.
Yeah, because the plants, they're so, again, we are so closely related that the plants know they're already, and in a way, they're already calling to you. You might experience them you might have a dream at night and this plant shows up, or it can happen in so many different ways. So, yes, synchronicity, paying really close attention to what shows up, what crosses your path, what you're attracted to. Attraction's another big one, because these plants and nature, they're sending out that vibratory resonance, and they're attracting you to them. And so pay attention to what you're attracted to. These are all ways in which you start to co-create, and you start to know what wants to be there. And never, here's the other thing, you can trust it. You can trust plants. They don't lead you astray. They don't lie. They don't betray. You can trust them.
So how does that work exactly? I mean, is the plant is interfacing with the world in such a way to create a synchronicity? This is kind of hard for me to wrap my head around. How does that work?
Well, that's a good good question. I keep giving you examples because it's the only thing I can tell you is that, okay, so I was going to be doing a plant initiation with a hawthorn tree. And I have a big hawthorn tree on the other side of the road that is where I harvest my berries and all that. And there's a young hawthorn tree here, right near us, and it's young. And I was sitting up near that hawthorn tree one day, and my gaze kind of went over, and I was like, oh, I've always wanted to do a plant initiation with you here, but you never flower. And Hawthorne's like, well, maybe if you did an initiation, I would flower. And I was like, oh, really? So does that
Well,
mean
I'm sorry, is this just coming in your mind's ear,
this
if
is
you
what
will?
I'm sitting there with, and this is what's moving through? I pay attention to everything. I don't let anything go past me. It's like, well, maybe I would flower then. And so then I was like, oh, so you want to be the initiator. I always wait to see who steps forward to be the initiator for our plant initiations. There's a plant or a tree that steps forward, and they're actually the ones that initiate us into what it means to be truly human. So I said, oh, that means you want to be the initiator next year. And it was like, yeah. I was like,
So
okay, great.
so back me up again.
Okay, back you up.
What do you mean by initiator? What is a
Well,
plant
okay, so
initiation?
one of the things we're doing is plant initiations. I'm calling them plant initiations, where a plant or a tree initiates us. When you think of what an initiation is in a tribal setting, it would be a young person coming into their adulthood. and they would go through an initiation process for that to happen. So right now, there's not much of that left anymore. So what's happening, because we are an entire culture full of adults that are not initiated, so that means we don't know, we don't have a clue what it means to live sanely within the collective. So the plants in their evolution, this is another piece of their evolution that we've been talking about, is that they're taking on the role of the elder, like the elder that would be in the tribe that would initiate the young person in. The plants and the trees are taking on the role of the elder to initiate humans into what it means to be a part of nature and to live sanely within the collective, living according to your true essential nature. That's what initiation is. And we are doing 3-day initiations here that are all in a ceremonial context.
So how
So,
does a plant do that though? I mean,
well,
how are
I'm
they
going to
the
tell you
initiator?
right now, I'm telling you about Hawthorne, because Hawthorne said, yeah, I'll be the initiator next year. And I was like, okay, all right. So the next year, here we come. And, I'm paying a lot of attention to the big hawthorn across the road, and not a whole lot to this little one. And then I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go check out the little hawthorn over here. And so I come to the little hawthorn, and now this is a tree that has never bloomed. And it's been here for 15 plus years anyway. And here it had like little buds. And I went, oh my gosh, you're going to bloom. And it was like, yeah, isn't that what we agreed on? I would bloom and you would facilitate the initiation, make it happen. Isn't that what we agreed on? I'm like, yeah, but you're going to bloom. I was so over the moon. But here was the good lesson for me in all of this, was that Hawthorne said, yes, I will bloom for this initiation. If you get it together, I'll bloom. And then it did. And then I was like all surprised. So it was like, ooh, it was a huge lesson for me in trust, that if a plant or tree lets you know that what it's going to do, that it's going to do that, you need to trust that it will absolutely do that. Plants do not lie. So here I was. So how did that happen? Here's my suggestion is trust. Put some trust in the plants in this way, and you'll be amazed at what happens, because they are here for us. They have our backs. They want us to succeed. They want us to be successful. They want humans to be successful on this planet, because we have always been we've been evolving together, and we continue to evolve together. The plants are just preceding us in our spiritual evolution. They want us to succeed. So we are going to have these kind of very amazing, seemingly miraculous experiences with them, because this is how they are helping us to come back into the fold, you might say, of being a part of nature and knowing how nature works on that big sentient level, and understanding.
So we're getting close to the end, and so it's time for me to ask you, Pam, what's your mission?
What's my mission?
What's your
Oh my
mission?
gosh. Well, I'm telling you all about it right now. And it's so funny that you asked me that, Gwilda, because this morning, I mean, I kind of eat and breathe and speak this all the time. And this morning, I actually sat down in my journal and wrote down the next 2 books I want to write. And then I was like, Pam, are you out of your mind? Like, wait a minute. you know, that's a lot of energy. But so my mission is to serve as a spokesperson for all of nature, and to help others understand that we are here to thrive in this amazing great nature, both humans and non-humans together, thriving in this lovely, beautiful lady Gaia that we live upon. So that's my mission.
It's a beautiful mission, and we are out of time. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Pam.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure.
Our guest this hour has been Pam Montgomery, an herbalist, international teacher, and author. Her latest book, Co-Creating with Nature, Healing the Wound of Separation. To find out more about Pam, where you can find her books and all she has to offer, visit her website, wakeuptonature.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But most importantly, please join us right here next time on the Voice of Canada Broadcast Network, vocbn.ca, where this mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to our rapidly evolving world.